Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome all members and guests to the January 24th, 2024 council meeting. Quick reminder, our meetings are web streamed and televised, so if you could take a moment to ensure your phones are on silent, that would be appreciated. And reminder for everyone on Teams to stay on mute. Please turn your camera on and unmute yourself when speaking. Use your Teams raise hand feature icon and remove it when you're finished. And with that, I call the January 24th, 2024 regular council meeting to order. And roll call, Councillor Huffman has sent in her regrets today. Councillor Michelle and Van Passen are not present, and the remainder of council is here. We do have quorum, so we will continue. We're going to move along to approval and or changes of the agenda. Are there any changes? I'm looking for a mover and a seconder then to approve. Moved by Councillor Vanadrishi, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? That is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Columbus, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do declare conflict of interest with respect to item 9.2 of the December 19, 2023 Council and Committee Minutes. Recommendation or resolution number 16, bylaw 2023-77, the Lehigh Drain, again. And a family member is owner of a property within the catchment area of the Lehigh Drain that is to be assessed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just playing catch up here, coming back from Roma, as you know, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So just give me a wave in my notes if I end up missing that and you want to scoot away. So make sure that we keep it very clear. Councillor Duthie, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Out of an abundance of caution, I'd like to declare a potential for perceived conflict of interest related to today's item 10.3, which is minutes of the Budget Committee, dated January the 11th, specifically resolution number BC 28 and resolution number BC 30.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? I'll be declaring a conflict pecuniary interest on the budget item as well, and I don't have the budget in front of me, but it is as it relates to the Police Service Board section. Okay, seeing no other hands, we have no early closed session. So the first item is Section 5 consent items. We have bylaw designating the head of MFIPA, CAO 24008. I'm looking for a motion to receive consent item 5.1, that the information memo regarding the update to bylaw designated head pursuant to MFIPA be received as information. Moved by Councillor Vanadrishi, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? That's carried. No deputations or presentations, so we're moving along to communications, which is item 8.1. We have one communication item, and that is the Long Point Region Conservation Authority Board meeting minutes of December 6th. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Vanadrishi. All in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Item 9.1, Council Workshop Minutes of November 28th. 9.2, Council Meeting Minutes December 19th. 9.3, Special Council Meeting Minutes of January 9th. Mover and a seconder? Sure.
Conflict on 9.2. Do you want to break them up? 9.1, 9.3?
Great. Thank you. No, thank you. Good catch. So let's do 9.1 and 9.3. We're removing the 9.2 because Councillor Columbus will declare on that one. 9.1 and 9.3. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Berry, seconded by Councillor Columbus. All in favor? Received as information. Okay, good. And now 9.2, which Councillor Columbus has declared a conflict of interest on. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Berry, seconded by Councillor Brunton. All in favor? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 10, reports of committee of the whole. So we will do, how about 10.1 first, which is our public hearing committee meeting minutes, January 9th. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Columbus, Councillor Berry, all in favor? Carried. Item 10.2, 10.2, budget committee, meeting minutes is, I believe that includes my
I believe it does.
police service board. So, Councillor Columbus, could I pass the chair over to you? I will not be voting on this.
We are on item 11.1, Police Service Board meeting minutes of July 26, 2023. And is there, oh, which one is it?
Sorry, it is the budget committee minutes,
Oh,
which is
okay, I thought it was
10.2.
Okay, we are on item 10.2, Budget Committee meeting minutes, January 10th, 2024, page 35. Are there any questions or discussion to be had with this committee report? Don't see any, Madam Mayor. I'll call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Pass it back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And just to be clear, we've declared our conflicts, but I think at the end we'll do full resolution of anything that's been skipped. Okay. 10.3, Budget Committee Committee meeting minutes of January 11th, 2024. And this is Councillor Duthie's declared a conflict. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Move, please go ahead. Microphone. Can you turn your microphone on?
Yeah, Mayor Martin, I'd like to ask a question about the motion regarding the arenas. Is that the one in there? I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. Is it in that minutes?
Which motion?
Huh?
Which motion? What's it really?
It was the one where we agreed to proceed with the dressing rooms and the bridge.
That dressing room is item 4.3 under these minutes. You're correct. It's page 3.
Okay, just a minute. Anyways, what I had some calls regarding that and the amount of borrowing we continue to do and debenturing. And I guess my first question is the arena expansion in the dressing rooms, is it mandatory or is it just something we've decided to do? And the reason I asked that was in both arenas, one on Friday and one on Monday, and they're adequately used as far as the dressing room. So I asked Mr. Cridland if it was a mandatory requirement. I know we got a grant for it, but if you look at it on that particular motion, we're going to borrow $7 million that under those two projects, the bridge and the dressing rooms. And I don't, unless I'm sure we'll 4 or 5% will pay on that and add it to our debenture list. But if it's a 4% on $7 million for those two projects, that's another, what, $280 million per year in interest. And it just keeps adding up. And yeah, 280,000. So, and that's a 4%. I think the last one we did was at 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. But we just keep adding to our debt. And that's why I'm asking that. Like, did we really give it a lot of thought? Like, in that 280,000, I think that's what the province gave us last week for the gas well issue. But that's one payment on that $7 million. Anyways, my question is, are the dressing rooms mandatory? I can't argue about the bridge, and that's a 20-year term, if I remember right. Are the dressing rooms mandatory? Is that or is it just something we thought we needed? Because I've never had a problem using either one of the arenas. That's my question.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Brunton, a very good question. I think when you look at mandatory, no, it's not. I mean, the municipality is not mandated to supply arenas. You know, it's a service that we do for the members of our community. So it comes down to it. It's not mandated. However, we do supply arenas, and we do hear from a lot of our user groups at key times when a lot of the minor sports, you know, we talked about the half ice, and when they're coming and going, there are pinch points. And that is where, when staff look at potential grant funding and keeping services rolling, that's where we saw this was a great advantage to take advantage of the 2.4 million and expand the change room. So not mandatory, but I think talking to our users, we have heard loud and clear that they do need this. The only thing I might add, and I don't know if it's a stretch, there are the human rights tribunals with the gender identification thing. We could could get in a problem someday with that if we don't have change rooms for those folks. But again, that's something we try to schedule around. So hope I've answered your question. Not mandatory, but definitely needed from the user groups we've heard from.
That particular grant we got on that issue, was it specific to that particular need or use? Like how did you arrive at that grant amount? How was it, I guess, applied for?
Through Madam Chair to the councillor. It was an infrastructure grant, and we worked with our finance folks to meet all the criteria. And I believe it was the top of the grant was obviously the 2.4 million. So we threw together the projects on the arenas. We did prioritize the arena expansions. And so it was prioritized as a project we wanted to do, and we brought the value up so we can maximize the grant.
Yeah, I realize I may be late on the issue, but it bothers me that we continue to borrow. It's not the 2.4 or whatever you got in the grant. It's the 5 million we're going to spend and add it to our 20-year list of paybacks. So anyways, thank you.
Al, did you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through you to Councillor Breton and to Council. Councillor, you rest assured we are sharing your concern in regards to the amount of debt. This project and the debt that was forecasted to be taken on was on our 10-year forecast. We identified it as a priority for our community and something we're moving forward with. I believe that council will see a marked difference in projects going forward as senior management has made it a commitment to ourselves that any projects that are going forward under tender, if they're coming in over budget, we are going to look long and hard at it, and we will try to minimize the amount of debt we're taking forward on anything that's over and above what we've got in our 10-year forecast. And we are looking for opportunities to try to minimize that. So it's a shared concern. We know our debt levels are getting high. There's forecasted to go only higher as we move forward. But we are prioritizing projects for our community that we think we need, and we will be diligent on any budget amendments going forward, any projects that are going over and above what we had budgeted for. So rest assured, it's high on our priority list in an attempt for us to control the debts that we're taking on.
I actually think that I gave you bad advice, and this is Council Committee meeting minutes 10.4, and we're on 10.3. So we jumped ahead. So let's pause this because Councillor Berry is next in the queue. We're going to stick to 10.3 because we have Councillor Duthie waiting in the wings on his conflict, and we can come back to this. Yeah, we'll come back to it. Yeah. Okay, so item 10.3, budget committee meeting minutes. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Andriesch, seconded by Councillor Berry. All in favor? That is carried. Welcome back, Councillor Duthie. We're on 10.4, and Councillor Berry, you can pick it up with Arena.
Yeah, just on the arena note, so through the chair there, I guess to Councillor Breton and maybe to the public, and I guess maybe Bill can confirm this, hopefully. It's not necessarily just about being, is it mandatory for the county to do it or not? It might be mandatory for the minor hockey groups to offer that in order to continue to be eligible to be part of Ontario Minor Hockey or Hockey Canada. So because those are our users and there's an obligation with them, it becomes, that's the service. Those are the groups we're providing the service to. So if those groups, if our minor hockey associations are obligated to provide those different dressing rooms or better dressing rooms or gender neutral dressing rooms in order to continue to be sanctioned by those hockey oversight organizations, then that's maybe a different way to look at it. So the question is, well, then why do you need to be sanctioned by them? Well, because there's a lot of oversight with Hockey Canada and OMHA with officiating, with dispute resolution, with training programs. So it's an advantage to the county or the user groups to continue to be a part of those organizations. They can't play against other teams that are, as far as I know, that are sanctioned if they're not. So it's a matter of continuing to provide facilities that are, of the caliber that the user groups we provide them to need. That's kind of the issue.
We're debating and there's no motion on the floor here, so we're not gonna, do you have a question again? Unless you want to pull this item. Nope, he just raised it. Okay, Counselor Columbus.
Just to Bill Cridlin, I guess, where did we get the estimate of 7 million? And where are we in the tendering process? Where will we be?
Through the Madam Chair to the Councillor, the projects have been tendered and that is a final price, and work is, once we sign the documents with the contractor, I believe the work is to start in April. So we are through the process. We just need council to approve it through a council meeting, and staff are ready to go.
Thanks, Bill.
Counselor Duthie, Van den Driesch, Brenton, and then I'd like to ask a question.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I was actually just going to make a motion that we accept the minutes of that date.
Okay, I have one question. Mr. Cridlin, can you just please clarify for the public record here, after bringing this item back up, what the savings was by holding off over a year, which was staff's recommendation to council?
Through Madam Mayor to the councillors. Yeah, I believe our highest level estimates were were around $8 million, and by waiting, we did save approximately $1 million.
Okay, mover and a seconder through Counselor Duthie and Van den Driesch to, sorry, this is 10.4 and the whole altogether? Okay, is there any further debate or discussion on that? Call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 11, reports of advisory committee and local boards. I'm not seeing any hands, so I'd like a mover and a seconder to adopt items 11.1 through to 11.7, Police Service Board meeting minutes July 26th and September 27th, Delhi BIA meeting November 2nd, Accessibility Advisory Committee November 2nd, Downtown Simcoe BIA November 8th, Economic Development November 22nd, Heritage Advisory Committee November 27th. That is it. Moved by Councillor Van den Driesch, seconded by Counselor Columbus. Debate, discussion, all in favor. Call the question. Any opposed? So all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Staff reports and discussions. We are moving right along to 12.2 Community Development Division, and it is item 12.2.1, the Economic Development Strategy 2024 through to 2027 and revised 2024 Actions and Priority Implementation Plan, report CD 24009.
Good morning, through the mayor. So this item is just closing the loop on the November and December council resolutions regarding the finalization of the new economic development strategy and the implementation plan, which was contingent upon the budget approval. Based on the budget committee recommendation, the implementation plan has been adjusted to focus on the identified high priorities along with the CIP program review for 2024. The Economic Development Advisory Committee last week endorsed the updated action plan at their meeting. Staff are recommending approval, including with recommendations to pursue grant funding, which we are actually, staff are currently preparing an application for right now, and along with a recommendation to provide an annual report to monitor the actions and the budget for the current year, along with setting priorities for the upcoming year. And with that, available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Sloan? I like the idea of the annual report. That's a good way to benchmark where we're at, what we're accomplishing, and how many dollars we've spent. Okay, we have a recommendation before us that reads that report CD 24009 Economic Development Strategy 2024 to 2027 and revised 2024 Action and Priority Implementation Plan be received for information, that the Economic Development Strategy 2024 to 27 be approved as attached to report CD 24009, that the revised 2024 Actions and Priority Implementation Plan Economic Development Strategy be approved as attached to report CD TD 24009, that staff pursue additional grant funding to support the actions and priorities of the Economic Development Strategic Plan as opportunities become available, and further that staff prepare an annual monitoring and priority setting report regarding the ongoing implementation and budget for the Economic Development Strategy. Moved by Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Van Andrieschie. Debate, discussion. All in favor? That is carried. Environmental and Infrastructure Services, item 12.3.1, the Ronson Drain McCool petition, EIS 24006. Mr. Grice?
Yes, and good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. I do apologize. This was a late addition to your council agenda yesterday, and the reason for that is we have very strict timelines under the Drainage Act that we must adhere to, and when we have something in our possession, we must get in front of council in a timely manner. So again, apologize that this was a late addition. The report itself is really simple and routine in nature. It is related to a drainage petition that we received from the McCools, who own a property in the northwest side of Norfolk County. And they're just looking to make some improvements to their property that would benefit drainage. And they have gone down the path of submitting a drainage petition to our superintendent. And that is why we're in front of you here today. We are recommending that we move forward and appoint R.J. Burnside as a drainage engineer for this project. I will note that there are sufficient funds available in the 2024 drainage program, and that would allow us to proceed with this in a timely manner. And again, this is really just the first step. We're appointing a drainage engineer at this point, and council will receive numerous updates as the project progresses further. But with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Councillor Van Andrieschie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So this undertaking would commence with an engineer to take a look at the situation to analyze what can be done or not be done for his particular property to drain off into the Ronson Drain. Am I correct? Because Ronson Drain pushes by pump, and it's quite a sophisticated outfit out there. But other people are coming on to that drain. So this is the first stages. Am I correct in saying that they'll take a look at this rather than seeing what can happen?
Through the chair, that is correct. So at this point, this would be the first step. They go out and they would evaluate some options. You are right that there is the Ronson Drain is already existing. There are various branches to it, and this would be an additional contribution to that drain. And what impact does that have on the drain downstream? And then what assessment is required to make that a reality? So that is really what the engineer will be doing for us.
And further to that, so only one person has to make a request for this off the drain, because I know there's 14 or 15 that are on that particular drain.
So through the chair, yes, I mean, this is a petition that is submitted by these individuals. It is deemed a valid petition at this point, and it is something that will be evaluated when they go through the next steps. Again, what is the impact upstream to the other contributing properties? What work needs to be done for this property, and what does that impact downstream, and what would that assessment be? So this does follow the same process we do for other drainage petitions. They're often brought forward by a particular individual property, and when the solution is recommended, there's often benefits to adjoining properties, which also form part of that assessment in the future. So it is a multi-stage process, and that's why you'll see us in front of you at numerous times with updates and engineers' reports, and before we take any further action.
Thank you very much, and thank you for addressing that Ronson Drain. Thank you.
Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How many property owners do you understand are involved with this drain? Councillor Van Andrieschie mentioned 10 to 15. Is that where we're at?
Through the chair, I would have to follow up with my team, and unfortunately, there is a Drainage Ontario board meeting today. So the fact that we have a number of our staff that sit on that board, they're not here today, so they would have better details for you. But I believe that is correct. I think it might be upwards of 20 properties that contribute to the drain, but it's not a large drain for us.
Thank you.
Councillor Brunton.
Yeah, I apologize, Mayor Martin, but I just looked at the map and it's not that clear. And Andrew, I guess my question is, McCools are the only one that signed this petition, and it looks like an expansion of the drainage system that's in place for the Ronson Drain. Am I correct on that? The map's not really that clear, but there's no other signatures on the petition, so I assume it's an expansion for McCools. Is that their name, McCool?
Through the chair, yeah, that is correct. It is the McCool's property, and yes, it is the petition is signed solely by them. They are experiencing challenges with drainage on their property, so it is initiated by them. But like the drainage, all things Drainage Act, as we evaluate what is going to be done on their property, there could be potential requirements to change things downstream of that, and that's why it is not solely a McCool issue. It becomes the entire drain issue that needs to be looked at and evaluated.
Yeah, but if it's an expansion and it's costly, they'll end up, if they don't proceed, they'll be the ones on the hook. So anyways, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay. Recommendation before us that staff report CAO 24. That is the incorrect report. Sorry, my page. That staff report EIS 24006 report to appoint an engineer under the Drainage Act 1990 for the Ronson Drain McCool petition be received as information, and that council accept the petition for drainage works by owners from a signed form signed by Ian Marlene McCool, and that council appoints the firm of R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited in accordance with Section 4 of the Drainage Act and the approved drainage engineering services roster. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Vanden Driesche, Councillor Brunton, all in favor? That's carried. Nothing from Operations or Corporate Services Division. Office of the CAO, we have item 12.6.1, Council Appointment to Health and Social Service Advisory Committee CAO 24003. Any comments or pretty self-explanatory? Okay, we can get into it. Councillor Vanden Driesche, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Yeah, this is just something that we're looking for a little bit of assistance. Sometimes we have a little bit of difficulty getting a quorum, and so it's would be handy if we had an alternate. We were restricted by that. So, for example, this week we had the mayor of Haldeman was unable to attend. One of their councillors were unable to attend. One of ours were unable to attend. So therefore, at the end of the day, it makes it tough. But we did get quorum on Monday. So if that would help us out.
Okay, the recommendation before us, we're looking for a councillor to join. The staff report CAO 2403 council appointment to Health and Social Service Advisory Committee be received as information, and that councillor to be decided be appointed to serve as an alternate Norfolk County member of the Health and Social Service Advisory Committee. We need a nomination or... And sorry, if I could ask a question of staff, is it the expectation that they are to be there and sit each and every time? It's just you would call them. So it's not much different than when you call me for quorum.
That's correct.
Might not solve the problem. Councillor Brunton?
What day do they meet on? I sat on it before and I'm just wondering what the date you normally set.
Or there.
Councillor Duthie?
The meetings are typically Monday mornings at 9:30. However, I suspect that there's some potential for that to change. I would just say as well, the idea is that all of the reports, the agendas, will always be circulated to the alternates so that they have them readily available and can read them. And then in the event that someone is unable to make it from Norfolk County, that person would be called to be the designate and would step in. So they will have all of the information and the reports already in hand.
I'll volunteer, but hopefully, you say the date may change. I haven't been on it before, and I don't mind filling in.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Frequently.
Between you and I will be the alternatives with their lacking quorum, and
that's fine.
Hopefully we could, and Haldeman, okay. All right, great. Thank you, Councillor Brunton. So I'm looking for a seconder, I suppose. Councillor Brunton can move that and nominate himself. Councillor Columbus seconds the motion. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks again, Councillor Brunton. That's great. Bylaws. Do we have any council member wishing to speak to any of the bylaw, which is the first one, 13.1 bylaw 2023-64, provide drainage works in the Corporation of Norfolk County for the Andrew Municipal Drain, third reading? Mover and a seconder then. Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Vanden Driesche. Discussion, debate. All in favor? Carried. Make sure we don't have any other. Okay, so then we're moving along to bylaw 2024-02 to 2024-06 consecutively. Mover and a seconder. It's items 13.2 through to 13.6. Councillor Duthie moved. Councillor Brunton seconds. That's great. All in favor? Slim pickings today. Holy. Motions. We have one motion. So if I may, I will pass the chair back over to the deputy mayor to put my motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, and I will let you introduce the motion.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. This is the notice of motion I introduced last week. As a reminder, it is from the AMO policy group concerning a social and economic prosperity review. And I'll let Councillor Columbus read it out in full when I'm done chatting there. But essentially, the work has been done by the AMO Association of Municipalities of Ontario, recognizing that we are outpacing the expenditures and revenue that we're receiving from the province by nearly $4 billion a year. The Western Wardens Caucus of Ontario is undertaking a regional review to narrow down those numbers and see exactly what our municipalities within the Wardens Caucus are contributing to that dollar value. But this specifically speaks to some of those additions we just discussed at the budget, where we're making up shortcomings from provincial legislation that's put on us, and we need to add more services this year to the tune of over $400,000 in stormwater management alone. We know that we're dealing with housing needs, homelessness, mental health, addictions, and certainly infrastructure. So all of this, including our debt load that Councillor Brunton perfectly raised earlier, are reoccurring themes with our municipal partners that we heard at Roma, and the province is hearing that. So this is the first step, requesting the province work with AMO to take on a social and economic prosperity review, try to balance the budgets for municipalities, and take more of an interest in the items like homelessness, social challenges, supporting asylum seekers, addressing mental health, addictions, and so on. We know that our tax base is our only source of income, and it does not move with inflation and the financial climate, whereas the government does see those changes fiscally in their budget. So that is the summary of the motion, and I'm available to answer any questions if possible.
So, Mayor Martin, I will read the motion. You had read it last week. I don't think there's been any changes, but I will proceed. Social and Economic Prosperity Review. Whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining the Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life. Whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario is for services in areas of provincial responsibility, and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year. Whereas municipal revenues, such as property taxes, do not grow with the economy or inflation. Whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure. Whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers, and addressing the mental health and addiction crisis. Whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity. Whereas property taxpayers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, cannot afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those most in need. Whereas the province can and should invest more in the prosperity of communities, whereas municipalities and the provincial government have a strong history of collaboration. Therefore, be it resolved that the province of Ontario commit to undertaking, with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. Can I have a seconder for Mayor Martin's motion? That is Councillor Linda Van Andrieschie. And is there any discussion to be had with respect to the mayor's motion? Councillor Banadrishi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. This is actually appropriate for this particular time. The province is downloading more and more and more to municipalities, and we can't handle it. Our taxpayers can't handle it, and therefore something has to be reviewed. And I am very pleased that Mayor Martin, you make this motion because it's the right time to do it. So I appreciate it. No questions, just a comment that we can no longer pay for all these downloadings from the province.
Anyone else wishing to chime in on this? No? So we have a mover and a seconder. I will call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I'll pass the chair back to you, Mayor Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We have no other notices of motion to my knowledge. Other business? Councillor Brenton.
I have a couple of issues here I'd just like to raise. And one, you all received the report on cannabis fines. And I must say I'm quite disappointed so far. I think the total value of fines was $800 and something thousand, if I'm correct. And we recovered about 27%, which is a little over 100,000. I guess I'm starting to wonder, why are we doing all this bylaw and research or investigations, and we're not seem to be getting anywhere with? It reminds me of the POA, how many fines we never collect there. So here we are. Can somebody tell me if there's any chance that we will recover that $800,000? And who would answer that question, if I may, Mayor Martin?
Great question for Mr. Milson, and who's not present or on the line, but Al maybe? Okay.
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor, I will say that we continue. We've got an outside legal firm that handles those prosecutions, and we are continuing to do our best to collect. I will say the following, that in certain circumstances, I don't think the barometer to measure success is based on the money you collect. In many cases, just going out there, having the bylaw enforcement, leveling the fines is enough to get some of these illegal operators and some of those activities to cease operations and move on to other jurisdictions, or just cease operations. And so I would be hesitant to say that our efforts aren't moving the needle on this. It is moving the needle. We're having some significant success. Yes, there's always challenges on the collection side. In many cases, they're numbered corporations, hard to identify who the owner is. In some cases, some of the owners are offshore. A whole whack of things that contributes to the challenges of collections. But I will say that bylaw enforcement group is doing a great job of identifying some of these illegal operators and having them cease operations. And I would just like to end with that. But we are continuing to do our very best to collect as much as we can.
Well, I guess my question really is, do you think we may recover the money, or is it basically a lost cause? I guess that's my concern, but I'll leave it with you. My second concern here, if I may, Mayor Martin, is I've had a call from an individual. I don't want to name where it's from because it really caught me off guard. It's about a water bill that went 6 months without being paid, and the individual didn't know about it. And by the time they found out, it was a substantial amount of money. And I've heard of a couple other issues, but this particular one caught me because I know the funding for some of these comes from the Ontario Works or Canada Works, wherever the money comes from to pay these things. But anyways, I was under the understanding that if you're a landlord, and correct me if I'm wrong, oh, Jesus, the landlord can put his name on the water bill along with the tenant, and that way he can check to see if the bills are being paid on time, or if they go into arrears. Can maybe Mr. Grice could look into that? I've been told that in the past, and I'd like to know if that's the case. It would help a lot of landlords dealing with tenants that don't pay their bills. So
that is something we had our finance team and Stephanie Davis work on, and that is true, but you need the consent of the tenant to do that. So the former term of council, we were, quickly trying to identify how we could close the infrastructure gap for our water needs. So we then made it the responsibility of the property owner to pay for the outstanding water bills, not necessarily directly the tenant. It was added to their tax bill, and the catch was, yes, you could, as the landlord, get on a bill with permission from the tenant. So that's, needs to be an agreement between the two parties, but that does exist already.
So if I'm clear, it's Earth Solutions that do the billing.
Correct.
So if we, I guess as a landlord, we can make it a condition of rent. I perhaps say you want to rent my apartment, sign here, and my name will be on there with you. But I know in some cases the landlords also pay the water and sewer bill, and it's covered in the rent. But so it's up to the landlord to make sure, I guess, if I can use that word, that his name is on that bill to be informed that they're in arrears.
Mr. Grice, you want to chime in, or?
Through the chair, no, you are correct. So really, Councillor Brunton, you as a landlord, you could put that into your agreement with your leasee or your rentee to ensure that your name is there. But Mayor Martin is correct. This did come up a couple of years ago, and we do have a process in place, but it does require consent. So I would suggest that consent be gained through your rental agreement with the individual renting your property, so you have clear visibility. In this particular situation, offline, if you want to provide some more details and the address, I'm happy to look into this particular instance, see if there's anything we have on file, or if there's anything anomaly with the water bill itself.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Andrieschie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to go back to your first issue that you brought up, Councillor. The idea of the cannabis fines, can it not work as well as the POA, where they could add it to the municipal tax if there's a fine? Does that be, and that's not something I'm looking for an answer here. Maybe at some point in time we can look for an answer, because at the end of the day, with the POA, like I had sent some information that I had found that you could add it to the municipal tax and they could be forced to pay it that way, or we could address it that way. Other than that, maybe if we look at some of the options that POA does have to be able to collect fines through the ministry, where the driver's license can be revoked and a driver's license can be not had if you don't pay your bills. So at the end of the day, I think we should look for options to be able to do those collections.
I see Al is nodding his head. Councillor Columbus.
Are we on other business or announcements? Okay, I wanted to just give a brief discussion on the Roma. Is that suitable right now? Okay, so Mayor Martin and CEO Menzies, we spent more than 2 days in Toronto meeting with Roma, and I think it's certainly a very good investment of time and energy for us. We had numerous meetings, not only just for county business, but also with SCORE and the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And also we had Bobby Ann Brady, our local MPP, join us for some of those sessions. We met with numerous ministers and also parliamentary assistants and discuss concerns to Norfolk County. I do believe it's just good to brief through those and make sure that they're still aware, and it seemed like they did their homework and knew what we had on our plate. Roma is certainly doing a good job for rural Ontario. There are 413 municipalities involved there. And just to thank Nancy Patterson for creating that great binder and putting all that effort in, even though she was on vacation last week, but we just tidied up the loose ends, and she did a great job scheduling our Norfolk County delegations and also what we had to do with SCORE and also the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. Thank you.
That's great. That's really kind of you. And I understand that staff will bring all the information in February to council. So you'll see the full package, the meeting schedule, the delegation content, and including SCORE and Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And thank you, Deputy Mayor Columbus, for helping and conquering and dividing and adding your 2 cents along the way. We had some really great discussions and great meetings. Thank you, Al, for all your help, and all of our staff, including communications, for our really handy handout that we leave behind, which in my opinion makes Norfolk look pretty darn good when we're there. Finances, not so much, but the branding and some of the accomplishments that we've been working on, I think we're well represented. So thanks for those comments, Councillor Columbus. Anyone else for general announcements? Okay, we have no close, for other business. General announcements. Anything from staff? Okay, no closed session. So that leaves us with our confirming bylaw 19.1 on the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve bylaw 2024-07 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, moved by Councillor Brunton, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? And Councillor Huffman's not here, and Councillor Michelle is not here. This is unprecedented. So who would like to be the mover of adjournment? Yeah, it's got to be that side of the table. Councillor Brunton moves for adjournment 9:50 a.m., seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.